Hi everyone and welcome along. So at the beginning of the week I did a really simplified Easter bunny, and today we're going to have a go at painting it in just a little bit more detail to give you some options. So grab your paints and let's get started. Right, I have a 6x8" piece of watercolour paper here, and I'm going to sort of build up a nice sort of wash scene around my bunny, but just to begin with I'm going to draw a sort of egg shape that's apt for, which is going to be sort of the back and the hind legs of the bunny, and then I want to just extend it with another egg shape, which is going to be the chest, which is where we're going to get our front legs from. But for now it's just to get that rough shape, and of course the very important tail, to then give us the head that will sit on the top. Oh, it's so sweet. I can already sort of feel like I know what this bunny's going to look like. So then I might just make that a little bigger. I want the head to really feel like it's sat like nicely into the body, because they're all very squidgy and fluffy. And then the ears come sort of they sort of start quite far down in a funny way, or just maybe a bit further down than you think. There we go, sort of sketch it in like that. So that's rather nice. We'll get the legs in. And we'll just have a little foot coming out there. And there we have a nice Easter bunny shape. Now, as always with my paintings, my drawings even, I like to just rub out some of the heavier pencil. It means when we paint over the top and then want to rub out any pencil at the end, our lives are going to be much easier. But also now this means I can start to create a bit of a scene around my bunny. So what does that mean? Well, with watercolour, the beauty of watercolour is we can create these lovely vignettes with colours and washes with nice blurry edges that kind of disappear off into nothing and look rather lovely. So I am going to, I've got some permanent rose and some yellow ochre, which together make a really lovely kind of blush tone. I've got some burnt sienna, I've got some raw umber as well, and I've also got moon glow, which is a nice colour, always useful. I'm going to begin with some raw umber and just start to sort of create a wash underneath. I've got a size 4 brush. I could go larger, but I just felt like for now I just want to start quite small. So I'm just dabbing the brush. I want to get a bit of permanent rose mixed in with yellow ochre. It's a nice colour, and I want this little scene to have some kind of, lovely Easter style joy in it. That's the moon glow going in there, and then up round the back. Got some more colours, and what I want to do now I've done those kinds of colours and maybe a little bit more moon glow sort of just around the back there, is I want to take my rigger brush and I want to create a few little sort of meadow strands, and what's going to happen is the colours are going to sort of come out of the wash and be all crisp, but they'll sort of bleed and blend into it from there. So this is buff titanium. So on Tuesday, at the beginning of the week on YouTube, I painted a really, really fun, very, very different style Easter bunny with chicks and all sorts of things around, and it was really cute. Oh, there's Moonglow, there it is. And today it's about just trying a different style, isn't it? So that's what the beauty of watercolour is. So with a darker colour, it's going to probably show up a little more even in the wash, and of course the wash is drying every second. So we're going to try different things, and I might also just start to add in a little bit of texture whilst this wash, like I say, starts to dry. So using some burnt sienna to build up some texture here. And I'm just now waiting really for it to dry a little bit more, and we could start adding some detail on top of the wash. But what I can do is maybe just add some buff titanium little fronds to maybe some of these dried out sort of little wheat sheaves. Well, this isn't a wheat sheaf, but that kind of thing, isn't it? We're just building a scene, really, of a nice sort of spring meadow. Nothing too detailed or anything that's going to sort of detract from our bunny in the foreground. So usually just sort of placing some dots up these stems makes for a rather nice, interesting shape. I'm just going to add a few extra little sort of, just a few bits and pieces really. Maybe a few little, well, I know mushrooms aren't really seasonal at this time. Just a few funny little sort of things growing, maybe a few little flowers. But it's all very sort of nondescript at this point. But also what's happening now is the wash is starting to dry, which means it's time to start thinking about painting our bunny. I'm going to start with some yellow ochre, and I'm going to begin with the body. And it's all about creating a sense, oh, and don't worry if it's a little bit wet still, because it's only a tiny bit damp and we're going to be going over with a bit more detail. And it's quite nice in a way to have it slightly fluff off into the background. So starting with sort of the outer edges and then getting lighter into the middle. So you clean the brush off and you go into the middle. And I'm painting with a real kind of slightly scruffy texture, because I want at every opportunity to be capturing that fur, that lovely fluffy fur. I'm going to bring in a little bit of moon glow, just under the chin a little, and then in the back legs and the front legs there, just getting that roundness. And then I'm also going to bring in a little bit of burnt sienna as well for some extra colour on the body. While we've got that all drying, we can look at the face a little bit more. So I find there's a good sort of line to be found, sort of from the bottom of the back of the ear, sort of through to where we're going to do a little Y for the nose and mouth to find where to put the eye. And what we're going to do is sort of curve up from there and just down a little bit as well. And you tend to get quite a nice eye shape. And I will just sort of slightly bring forward the other side of the head there and maybe just flatten that down a little bit. There we go, that looks quite nice. And then thinking a little bit more, sort of develop that muzzle a little bit more. Slightly defining that muzzle shape, and then giving that just a little bit of a slightly chubby cheek to the rabbit there. And then just again just minimizing the pencil so you can see it, and then we can get back to painting. So I'm going to begin with my yellow ochre. And I think I'm going to leave a little bit of light space around the eye. And just lighten up when we come down to the muzzle. For the ears, oh actually no, I have to do a little bit of burnt sienna. I think just around where we get down to the nose, and just a little bit of moon glow just in there. A little bit of moon glow towards the back where we start to meet the ears. And the whole point of this is going nice and sort of gently with the washes, and then we can add all kinds of detail in another layer. So yellow ochre. My yellow ochre does have the tiniest bit of permanent rose in it, and then a bit of moon glow at the top there. So that's looking really nice, and we are going to start now to paint in a bit more texture onto this bunny to get some lovely fur detail. So I've just taken some yellow ochre, moved it over here to mix in with that little bit of moon glow just to get it a little bit deeper in colour. And I'm going to use my 4/10 brush. And I'm going to start just dabbing in some little furry strokes. Now we don't have to do this on every single part of the rabbit, but what it does do is really help you sort of define the shape, and it's going to be really useful on the face as well. But you can already see it's just bringing this rabbit to life a little bit on the page. And of course, if you want, you can get a bit more moon glow in there in places where you want some deeper colour, or just sort of around the edges. And I keep on cleaning my brush off and then just getting a bit of water and sort of just stretching out the colour I've already got on the page there. So I've just sort of created that fur texture around the body, and now I'm going to start around the face, around the muzzle. So the hair very much sort of going up the forehead. What I like about this is it really helps create that kind of the twitchy rabbit whiskers that I always think of. Might come down just a bit closer. And then down from the forehead. These little dashes can really help create the contours of the rabbit's face. As you can see, I'm sort of really accentuating the curve of that cheek with them there. And then I just get a little bit maybe of the burnt sienna, a bit of the deeper moon glow, and just come down and then of course we need to do some on the ears as well. So I've placed in a little bit of the permanent rose mixed with the yellow ochre there, and now a little bit of buff titanium in and around the nose and mouth and around the eye. And of course we've got our tail down here, which I haven't really done anything with yet. So a bit of buff titanium again, just sort of dabbing around the edges. We want to keep most of it nice and unpainted. And a little bit of moon glow, hardly any on the brush. Just a bit of texture. There we go. Looking lovely. So let's now look at a little bit of, just a little bit of deeper colour just coming up the ear there. And we can start now to place in a few extra strands of colour in the meadow around the bunny. So I'm going to put a bit of green in with my moon glow, make a nice sort of interesting deep colour. With my rigger brush I am going to just place in one or two, and we have just painted the tail, so I'll just be careful of that. A few that have just sort of been slightly trampled under our bunny. It's a nice contrasting colour to what's gone in there before. And then I can just use it as a sort of shadowy colour just underneath there. And we can add a few nice little leaves and tufts and strands to that as well. I love this. This is such a different kind of approach for an Easter bunny. But it's lovely to be able to paint things in lots of different styles. And Easter is a real time for making and creating. It's just lovely. So I'm now adding in just a few little dabs of cadmium yellow just to create a little sort of flower puff here and there. It doesn't always have to be on the end of a stem, it can just be sort of lurking in there. And I will, just to keep the colour palette true, I'm going to add in a little bit of yellow ochre just underneath some of these bigger ones. Because we're just trying to keep everything nice and light and soft, and then letting our bunny in the foreground be, well, not even in the foreground, but be the key thing. So we're going to just do a last little bit of dashes and detail, just with one last layer of just slightly more concentrated paint, so a bit of moon glow. And if you feel like you've got too much paint on your brush, just clean it off. And I think that just really helps sort of define where the head meets the body, because that can sometimes be a bit of a confusing thing. That's the thing I often struggle with, actually, is the proportion of the head to the body and where it sits. And of course, if you've got a really sort of baby bunny, then the head is going to be that little bit bigger in proportion in relation to the rest of the body. So, you know, you can always use that as your excuse if you struggle. Okay, so just defining that cheek a little, and now just a little bit extra up the front of the face. And now I will take some some ivory black that I've got here, nice and concentrated, with my small brush, my 4/10 brush, and just that sort of top outline. And the bottom outline. There's a lot of paint there. I don't need it all, so I've cleaned my brush off, and I'm now using the wetness of my brush to just create the eye shape there. And I'm going to sort of do a little combo of moon glow, burnt sienna, and a bit of ivory black. To do the little Y, which has also got a tiny little Y at the bottom of it as well. And then I can just clean the brush off, use a tiny bit of that colour to then help create the mouth. And also I just want to make, there we go, just needed a little bit more on the other side. Lovely. Now one thing more we need to do is a few whiskers, and whiskers are always a bit difficult because I think sometimes we think, oh, I should do them black, but they don't tend to work that well when you do them for pure black. So I've made up here a little buff titanium moon glow combo, and with my rigger brush, let's see, I don't want too much on the brush. So just final finishing touches, maybe a little bit of Payne's grey in here as well. Just a few little shadowy bits, which then I can take a little clean wet brush and I would say that is done. We just need to rub out the pencil and then we've got a beautiful little Easter bunny. So there we are, pencil rubbed out, and we have a beautiful little Easter bunny. Thanks so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this one. Don't forget to subscribe and comment and let me know how you got on with that one. It's always wonderful to see your paintings on Instagram as well, so tag us at the Winton Paper Co, and we'll see you again next time. Bye!